Welcome to the RC Community Sticker Project, brought to you by Fast Freddy RC. In today's video, we're doing a shout-out to RC So-and-so. Great guys, great builds, fantastic intros. Now then, hobbyists, let's keep building the squash van. So for step 8, attaching the pinion gear. Well, you can see that we're going to need to grab our motor, put the motor plate on, and then put our pinion gear on with the grub screw. And you can see here that it has to be 14 millimeters from the motor plate to the outside. So we're going to need to figure that one out. So I've pulled together what we need. There's our plate, the pinion, and the grub. So I'll set this up and let's attach this all to the motor. So first off, if we grab our motor, we're going to have to grab this and take it off. And the easiest way to do that, I find, is just grab a pair of pliers, grab the tip, press hard, and pull. And there we go. There's the rubber off of the motor. Now the other thing is, and I mean I always tend to do this, you can see that in terms of how they're showing you putting this all on, you can see the divots or whatever they call them with the open holes on this side. There's only the one on this side. So I tend to kind of follow the manual when it comes to this sort of thing, and I will keep those on facing up. So first things first, we're going to grab our motor plate, push that into place. There we go. Just make sure that it is in line with the holes, which it is. And then we've got our grub screw that we're going to need to put into the pinion gear. Now, what I find, and I've said this before in other builds, I like to put the grub screw on the end of the Allen key and then start the process of screwing this in. You can see just like that, it's in, only because then I'm not having to worry about actually getting into the hole at the same time. And now we can screw this on. Now, here is another thing that I like to do, is that you see how that's got to sit on the flat, and you want to make sure that it is doing, is that as a temporary measure, I will get it screwed down enough that it's loose, but you can see that it's also turning the motor because the grub screws down enough that it can't turn without turning the motor. So now that that is in place and sort of ready to go, we're left with doing the measurements. So what we're going to do is we've got to make it 14 millimeters. So I'm going to, if you can see this, I'm going to take it to the 14 millimeters. Roughly. And then we're going to screw this in place. Now, I can already tell it's going to slide around, so I'm just going to twist this on just a little bit more than what I did before. So with the camera, I'm finding that a little harder to put on, but if you look at this, there's your 14. If we take it from the motor mount, it's where it needs to be. It is exactly 14 millimeters. Now, what I did find is if you take a look at this, it was almost easier to put it on this way. If you look at where the grub screw is, it's literally the pinion itself is sitting just a little further back from the flat spot, leaving a very thin gap between the pinion and the motor mount. So I tightened it up a little bit. It's not all the way down, but when you put it back on, it literally is sitting, whoops, at the 14 millimeters. So it's just going to be a matter of tightening this down. Now, I've said this before, this is the one place where when you're tightening on the pinion, tighten the pinion. I like to do it as tight as I possibly can to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. I don't like using Loctite. I would just rather put enough pressure on this that it's going to hold it in place. So there we go. There is our motor with the pinion in place. So that is step 8. It's literally just that. So we can now move on to step 9, and we're going to attach the motor. And of course, it looks like we've got a couple of other pieces to put in as well.